I only caught a small hint, it seemed harmless, and nearly shrugged it off. Work had pulled me out of town, so, as always, I'd left Susan, my wife, a full rundown of my itinerary. True to form, she'd kept me looped in on her plans, too. After all these years it was just second nature. Then Thursday morning everything clicked into place. By 11 a.m. the folks I'd been negotiating with signed the contract and headed off to tackle an East Coast emergency. I'm early, always been the upbeat, easygoing guy with a grin, and I work as a troubleshooter and negotiator for my company. Trips like this aren't an everyday thing, but they pop up several times a year. This particular week-long trip was supposed to run through Saturday. I was due to fly out of LA at 9:15 p.m. Saturday night, and since I'd land in Seattle after midnight, I'd told Susan not to pick me up at SeaTac. Instead, I planned to hop on the airport shuttle and be home in Bellevue by around 1:30 a.m. I hustled into LAX, got my ticket switched to the earlier flight, and was airborne by 1:45 p.m. Once up in the air, I grabbed the in-flight phone to give Susan a heads up that I'd be home that afternoon, only to find she was still at work. So I rifled through my briefcase, pulled out her office number, and dialed her direct line. "Jensen, Sharon, and Anderson, how can I help you?" The receptionist answered cheerfully. "Hey, where's Jennifer?" I asked. Jennifer usually handled Susan's calls. "Oh, Mrs. Conroy's secretary is out today and tomorrow. Can I help you with something?" The receptionist said, still upbeat. Could I talk to Mrs. Conroy, then?" I pressed. "Mrs. Conroy? May I ask who's calling?" came the slightly flustered reply. "This is her husband. Please patch me through." There was a pause, then, "I'm sorry, she's tied up at the moment, and I'm not sure when she'll be free. Can I take a message?" I hesitated a beat, then said, "No, I'll catch her at home tonight. Just let her know I rang." And I hung up. Something about that call felt off, but it took me another 30 minutes to figure out why. Susan had told me just last night she'd be in the office all day. Sure, she might have been stuck on a case or with a client, but Jennifer being out didn't add up. Susan always had her working her same hours. The only time Jennifer ever skipped work while Susan was there was when she had the flu or her own personal day. The plane touched down on time in Seattle, and I was back in Bellevue by 6:35 p.m. The house was dark and empty, odd, since Susan was almost always home by 6. I tossed my dirty clothes into the hamper, changed, and by 8 p.m., with no Susan in sight, I whipped up a grilled cheese for dinner. Then I parked myself in front of the TV, waiting. As the minutes dragged on and no one walked through the door, worry gnawed at me. Had she been in an accident? But if anything serious had happened, someone would have called or at least left a message. I couldn't sit still, pacing the living room instead. I dialed her cell, but all I got was number not available. Probably because it was switched off. But why would she turn it off? By 9:20 p.m. that little nagging concern had flared up into a burning doubt. Just then my own phone rang. It was Susan. She had me worried there for a minute. Early, I was sure something had gone wrong. Susan's voice trembled with concern. "I called the hotel after dinner like I always do, and they said you'd already checked out. Are you okay?" "Yeah, everything's fine, just a slight change in plans," I answered. "Where are you right now?" "I'm home," she said. "I just finished tidying up the kitchen. It's felt so quiet here tonight. Will you be back Sunday as planned? And where are you staying?" "I'll be home all day Sunday, no problem," I assured her, though my gaze drifted to the dark kitchen and the pile of dishes from my makeshift dinner. "We shifted our talks to their headquarters this morning, so you can reach me on my cell." "Nothing out of the ordinary today," she replied after a pause that felt heavier than usual. "I was tied up with John Stickner, he bailed me out of that Melrose account mess. I owe him big time." Her tone carried an undercurrent I couldn't place. "And get this," she crowed, excitement bubbling through the line. "Mr. Jensen practically promised me that partnership after I turned that disaster around." "That's fantastic, honey, we'll celebrate for sure," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic even though my stomach nodded at her words. "I'm sorry I missed tonight's festivities." "Don't worry," she soothed. "We'll kick off our celebration Sunday when you're home. Just don't be late, I miss you. This big bed feels awfully empty without you." After chatting a bit more about household stuff, the call ended. I sat there, my mind racing with every glib reassurance she'd given me, too many to be true. I'd always thought our marriage was rock solid, but now doubt gnawed at my confidence. That night I tossed and turned in our massive bed, Susan's complaint about its size ringing in my ears, finally drifting off well past midnight. I was up by 7, staring at the ceiling, trying to plan my day. By 9 o'clock I knew she wouldn't be coming home. I called her office again, and when the receptionist, still not Jennifer, said Mrs. Conroy was unavailable, I simply thanked her and said I'd try Monday. "That's fine," she chirped. "She'll be in by 9 Monday. You can call then." I grabbed our dark green Explorer, mostly used for camping trips and rarely seen by anyone, and left the Mercedes parked in the garage. I drove to Susan's office in Bellevue and confirmed her gray BMW wasn't in the lot. My heart sank as I headed next to the address I'd found for John Stickner's home. Medina's exclusive neighborhoods always give me the creeps: towering firs, an 8-foot red brick wall, iron gates. As I crept past, I spotted her BMW parked beside the garage, tucked out of sight. My vision blurred. I pulled over to collect myself and wipe away my tears. I wandered back into Bellevue and, by the time I sat down for brunch at 11:30, a soggy Belgian waffle and tea, I could barely choke down a bite. An hour later, I paid, left the restaurant, and drove past Stickner's house twice more. Susan's car never moved. My mind spun with questions about our life together and whether I'd ever feel that genuine warmth again. Back home, I wasted the afternoon snacking on fruit juice and colas, too stubborn to cook. At 9:45 that night my phone rang. It was Susan again, lamenting how lonely the bed was without me. I grunted in reply, unwilling to let her off easy when she had no idea what lonely really meant. She sounded puzzled when I hinted that she didn't know loneliness at all. I brushed it off as agreement that the bed must feel very, very lonely for her. "I love you more than anything," I said when I finally hung up, though it felt hollow. I forced myself to sleep by midnight, my mind a whirl of questions. Did she love me at all? Was she punishing me? What did she need from me? What could I do to fix this? I woke again at 8, unrested, and spent the morning in the darkened living room. Around 10 I heard the BMW pull into the garage. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking fresh in a Campbell plaid wrap skirt and a bright red sleeveless blouse with the top 2 buttons undone. Her tie cloisonné necklace, my gift on our 3rd anniversary, gleamed against her neck. Her eyes flicked to the sink piled with dirty dishes and then to the curtains still drawn tight. She crept through the kitchen into the dining room, inspecting every shadow. Dropping her overnight bag on a chair, she darted into the living room and grabbed the fireplace poker. I lifted my teacup to my lips, breaking the silence with the sound of my sip. "Oh my God, early," she gasped, dropping the poker. "You scared me. When did you get back?" I let a few long seconds pass before answering in a voice drained of its usual warmth. "A couple days ago." I watched as Susan's knees gave way and she slid backward into a blue and white striped wingback chair across from me, her face locked in stunned silence. She rubbed her hands together like she was trying to steady herself before managing to choke out, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you call? Where have you been staying?" I lifted my teacup, paused to swallow, and then spoke in a flat, calm voice that surprised even me. "I did call, Thursday afternoon. You weren't home, and you weren't in the office. Jennifer wasn't there either." I let the room go quiet again before taking another slow sip. "I was right here in this chair when you rang. I spent those nights in that big, lonely bed you told me about." Outside, the late afternoon sun lit up the street and neighbor kids broke into a shouting match, their dog barking as if joining in. Inside, with the curtains drawn and the only light from my lamp, all I could hear was Susan's ragged sobbing. I set my teacup down and continued, still without emotion, "Something tells me you weren't exactly lonely those nights. Care to explain, Susan? Help me understand what happened." She hid her face in her hands, shoulders shaking as tears fell. After a moment she lifted her head and pleaded, "Early, I love you. This wasn't about us. Please believe me, it was something I had to do. It had nothing to do with my feelings for you." "That doesn't add up," I said, voice low. "How can betraying our vows have nothing to do with us?" Her voice wavered as she tried again. "It was to repay John for what he did for me. I swear, it wasn't about love or us." I waited a beat, then asked, "So you owed him that much? Did he pressure you after helping with the Melrose account?" "No," she cried. "He's an honorable man. He helped because he knew the situation wasn't my fault. He never asked for anything, least of all that. So if he didn't ask, why did you offer? That's what I'm missing." Susan's cheeks flushed. "It wasn't sleazy. He deserved it. It had nothing to do with us." I leaned forward, quietly furious. "Is this my fault somehow? Did I drive you to this?" She almost screamed, "No, Early. It wasn't you." Tears streamed down her face as she insisted again that it was just her way of saying, thanks to Stickner, that his help was for both of us, and it had nothing at all to do with her love for me. I sat back and let her words hang in the air before asking, voice barely above a whisper, if it was so beautiful, why does it sound so tawdry? Silence filled the room until I spoke again, more softly this time. Remember how we always pledged ourselves to each other? You used to tell me I was all yours, every day, sometimes without me even asking. Do you remember that? She sniffled and nodded. Yes, I do. And I belong to you. This had nothing to do with us. I could feel her collapse when I spoke. Susan's knees buckled, and she sank into that striped wingback chair opposite me, her face the picture of shock. Susan, I began, voice tight but controlled, how can you say one thing and then say another so opposite? Don't you see the contradiction? You gave away the most precious thing in my life, yourself, to another man. And now, listening to you, I'm starting to think you don't value intimacy at all. You handed it over freely, to a man who didn't even ask for it. It sounds like you had to persuade him to take it. She looked up, tears streaking her cheeks. But it didn't mean anything, early. I'm still the same, I love you completely. I am yours. I shook my head. Susan, everything we do changes us. You spent 2 nights in his bed, I choked out, voice cracking, sharing things with him that should only ever be shared with someone you love. She sobbed, and I pressed on, voice softer but insistent. How many nights was it, Susan? Just those 2? Or were there more? When her sobs filled the silence, I steadied myself and spoke again, flat and quiet. And forgive me, but I have to wonder, how many other men do you think deserved a reward you promised was mine? You claim you belong to me, yet you give yourself away so casually. Susan curled in on herself, shoulders hunched, hair falling over her face, her body trembling with grief. We sat like that, me brooding in my chair, her crouched in that shadowed room, while the neighborhood basked in a sunny Saturday afternoon. The only sound inside was her quiet sobbing, until the old mantel clock began its slow, muffled strike at noon. Susan, I don't know where we stand now. I swear I love you as much as I did the day I left for Los Angeles. But you keep insisting your betrayal had nothing to do with me. You don't understand what you've done. My trust in you is shattered, and I don't know how, or if, it can ever be restored. I paused, then added, voice firm. And let me be clear, if you suggest I should go out and cheat to even the score, we're finished. First, it shows how little you value fidelity. Second, 2 wrongs don't make a right, they compound the wrong. I stood slowly, set my empty teacup on the hearth, and walked over to the dining room. Pulling the drapes aside, I peered out into our sunlit, perfect backyard. I spoke so low she almost couldn't hear me. Susan, I feel like shaking you until you understand how much you've hurt me. I've never wanted to harm a woman, much less my wife, my love. But meeting John Stickner right now would be a terrible idea, despite your suggestion that you seduced him. She let out a small, shaky noise, denying the accusation. I continued, voice icy. You insist it wasn't his idea, yet now that he's had what you offered so easily, won't he expect more? No matter what you've told him, he'll see you as someone willing, too willing, to give yourself. I cut her off gently when she started to protest. Maybe he won't think you're available to everyone, but to him, you'll be easy. Over time, he'll lose respect and the value he once had for you. I paused, then added softly, if we're going to save this marriage, we need to face what happened, hour by hour, day by day, right here at home, and rebuild our communication. I took a deep breath and lowered my voice. I don't know if it's even possible. We can't make any big decisions today. It might take months, maybe years, before we feel truly at ease with each other again. Tonight, I'll sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow, we'll swap out our king-size bed for 2 full-size beds, one for each of us. The master is big enough. If we're both committed, and we work hard, maybe we can get through this, but right now, I'm not sure you want to. For now, that's the best I can offer. I looked back into the living room, dark and still, like a cave compared to our bright backyard, and said, I'm willing to try. We can talk about what marriage means to each of us in the months ahead. Maybe we can salvage this. Susan, I love you. I opened the sliding glass door and stepped onto the patio. As I closed it behind me, I heard her soft sobs through the glass.